I thought I would share with you how to go about creating a rhinestone design similar to this. Now, we're not really going to focus so much on Easy Stone. Obviously, I am going to use some of the features in Easy Stone to help me create this design, but that's not really the focus of the video. The focus of the video is how do you take what ultimately is a somewhat complicated design, and how would you go about creating that rhinestone design? Now, this is a JPEG. It's a very poor quality JPEG, and the way I do my design work is probably very different than most people do it, because most people want a vector graphic, which I never use a vector graphic in my rhinestone design. So I kind of, from that standpoint, actually work backwards. But the other key point that I like doing is I like doing video demonstrations like these because they're not typically done. So if you go out on YouTube, you're not gonna see uh, I've never seen a complicated rhinestone logo like this ever demonstrated how you would even go about doing it. So at any rate, that's kind of where my angle is from this. So I'm probably not going to go through the entire design because it will take a little bit of time. But I do want to give you what I think will be the mindset process that you would go through in doing the design, and then the parts that I'm not going to show you, you could go ahead and do yourself. And once you have a kind of an understanding of where to even begin on such a thing. So the first thing that we have to determine is what size. What is the finished product going to be? And I'm just going to say it's going to be 9 inches. I don't really know what it is, but let's just say it's going to be 9 inches. So what we're going to do is select our design here. Now we have a special function in EasyStone where we can click on the set size function and click on the far left hand side and the far right hand side of the design. And this tells us that this design is currently 1.24 inches. So we're just going to change that out to 9 inches. And then bada boom, bada bang. So let's go ahead and right click and lock that object so we cannot move it at this point. All right, so now what's the next step? Well, a lot of times when we're doing rhinestone design, we'll start from the inside out. Sometimes we start from the outside in. There is a lot of factors. It just really depends on the design. So I've never done this design before, or really necessarily one like it per se. So I'm going to start from the outside in because my experience tells me that that's probably the smart way to do it. But before I do anything, I really have to see, okay, we know that the design is 9 inches. What I really need to see first is how big are the rhinestones I plan to use? How big are they in relationship to my artwork? And so let me explain. So we're going to start with this black outline as our jumping off point here. And so we're going to right click on SS10. That will set our stone size to SS10. And let's, I don't know, we'll just use crystal and let's add a stone. So we're going to right click on add stone, and that's going to add just a single stone. Okay, so you can see that based on the size of our rhinestone, based on the size of our design, you could see that our SS10 stone is roughly the same size as our black outline. So let's go ahead and just throw that in there quick. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put a stone up here, come down here. Now don't concern yourself about color right now. We're not that's not our concern. We're just going to kind of generically, so I would just place one stone at every corner. And this will be a good starting point for us. We can come back, and you see that spacing is a little bit too much there. I'll go ahead and add a stone. And then here we might just go in and add some stones manually, because it's just a couple here. And then what are we going to do here? Let's come here. Now, you see where this area right here, see how these stones are not like real evenly spaced? We'll use that function in Easy Stone to space them out. Now, right here, there's a little bit of a point there. So the easiest way to get that, a little bit of definition there, is just to go ahead and use an SS6 stone. Now we're going to get to a point where we always run into, and I'll show you here in a moment. These are some things that we're going to have to make some sacrifices for, because you see that black outline, it's real skinny on both of those 2 points right there. Let's go ahead and space those evenly first. See what we get there. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and we'll still add that. We're just going to have to do it with 6s. So we'll go ahead and add one additional stone there. Now across the top here, these stones are spaced a little bit farther apart than I would like. So I'm just going to add one stone there too. And we're going to just keep going here. Show you what we're going to do here. Let's get all of our stones in for our outline. I want to use as many 10s as I can in this first example, this first outline. But if I feel like I need to use some 6s, I can. It'll be okay. See, like right here, I feel like maybe 6s would be more representative. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add another stone here. I want to sort these stones around that. Use my freehand pick tool. Sort them out quick. Okay. Now the interior parts I won't concern myself with a whole lot right now. I'll go ahead and do this one though. Okay. But you know, the little interior parts right there, I just mainly for right now just want the outline. Okay. So you can see what we did there. I'm going to come all the way down. And we'll just use that path of stones there. Let's zoom in here a little bit. We do have these control points where we can manipulate our path. If we want to, we can also double click on our path. That'll add some additional control points. If we want to fine tune and manipulate our path a little bit better, we certainly could do it that way too. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. Let's go back to 10s here. We do have, so see where it gets kind of skinny. We'll add another 10. I'm just going to pause right there and sort all these stones. And when you've done this so many times, you know, you might say, well, that looks like he's just kind of throwing things in there willy-nilly. I am. I've done it so many times. I kind of have a good idea of how it all is supposed to work and look and how it'll all come together in the end here. So we'll come all the way over here. Add a path of stones. I think that's actually good just like that. We'll go ahead and add our little thin vertical here. So you know, with this design, it does kind of lend itself well to, you know, having these different outlines and things, and so you want it to look right. let's see, we're going to go all the way up here. I'll just show you here. Get some of these stones in here. And really, we're just using this as a guide. So, that's something else you got to kind of keep in mind. This is really just a guide, the artwork. It doesn't have to be an exact replica of the design. So we'll go ahead and delete those. Let's go all the way up top here. And you'll see how quickly this design, once we get this outline in place, this initial outline in place, you'll see how quickly this design will come together for us. We'll come out here. And when I was starting rhinestone design years ago, there wasn't a lot of videos on how to create rhinestone design. So I just kind of had to develop my own software because the programs out there didn't really have the tools the way I wanted to ultimately design, the way I taught myself how to design. The software didn't have the tools, and so I just kind of gradually created a program. And once I discovered I needed this function or that function, I just kept adding functions that I needed for the way I designed. And it really helped me out tremendously. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much what we got going on there. So that pretty well takes care of our initial outline. Now, I am going to obviously add some more stones because there are some areas here where we had a bit of a black outline. So we're going to try and mimic some of it. Right, we had a little bit here, so we'll go ahead and add a stone there, maybe add one more stone there. We'll add a big stone here because there's kind of a big blob there, and then there isn't. So we'll do something like that. Okay, there's some outline in there. And there's a little bit of an outline here. And let's see here. Where there's a big stone there. So I'm going to put that in there. We'll space these all out because we can't fit another one in there. So we'll just go with that. So you see how we're just kind of using that initial design as a starting point. We're not following it necessarily exactly. We're just kind of giving it the idea, the illusion. Okay. We'll space that out. It's coming together nicely. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot right at the moment, but you'll see what I'm talking about. It's going to come together. Okay, so that's a 10. We can go ahead and go with that. See where there's bigger areas, we use 10s, and when it gets smaller, we just switch them out for 6s. Okay. Okay. And then we've got this interior part. Now, we just kind of, as you can tell, we just kind of threw things in there. We may have to come back in and modify some of this once we get to a certain point in our design. But you can see clearly that that is our first step. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save this design quick a minute. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's just call it the Toon Squad here quick and hit save. So that's good starting point there. And let's, if we want to, let's just pull off what we did already. And you can see kind of where we're at there. So that's kind of our initial outline. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and change that to its finished product. So we're going to go ahead and change that to black. And when I'm stoning black on top of black, I just don't like doing that because I don't feel like I can see it very well. So here's what I want to focus on. Let me grab this. So what we're going to do for this purpose of this video is we're going to go ahead and finish out Toon in its entirety, and then you are going to have to work on Squad by yourself. Okay? So let me and what I think I'm going to do just for fun is I'll post the Toon Squad video with everything done but Squad. So that will force you to try it out. Watch the process and then try your hand at doing it because I think you'll find it's really simple. Okay, it's really not that complicated. So now basically what we're going to do is let's just start with our letter T. I think that will be the simplest. So let's go ahead and start with our letter T. And we're going to do pretty much the same as we did previously. Now, because there's not enough room here, we're going to go ahead and this is the part when you're creating a container. Okay, so we created this container of this outline, and now we're down here. We had to change our stone size to fit the container. So I'm going to try and use as many 10s as I can, but certainly recognize the fact that I may have to change a few stone sizes to fit the container. Okay? And do be mindful. See how close those are? Those are pretty close. So what we could do, let's just undo that quick. Let's just slide that over just a pinch. It didn't need to be slid over much. And now I think we can go ahead and now we've got the space that we need. We're good to go. All right. So just be mindful that we may have to change this up a little bit once we get going here. Okay. So here we have a container. So we only have so much room here. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop a 6 in there just because it's a little bit tight. Not too bad. All right. And then let's bring this one over. And we're going to combine those two, but with a modifiable path. So we want to make sure that's good. I can live with that. We modified the path a little bit there. And I can live with that. There's a little bit wider gap there than I might like. But the alternative would be 3 SS6 stones, and I don't think I want to do that if I can help it. So I'm going to switch back over to 10s here if I can. See how that was just a little bit close there? And that's because of where that bottom stone was pretty close to my black outline. So I'm just going to modify it. That looks good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and pull that, just that little piece off, and so you can just see it a little bit better. So now we can see what we're doing. So you see that? So what we're going to do is just kind of continue that same process on around. So let's go ahead and take care of this bottom segment here, because I think that will be the easiest. And we have a modifiable path. Let's look at our path pretty close. And you know what? I'm going to call that good. We don't have to be too particular. I'm excited to show you the target. And I am excited about that. Because, sometimes something that looks like, oh man, that's going to be incredibly complicated is actually the easy part. And that target is the easy part of this one. That's why I kind of saved it for last, because it will be pretty easy. Now, this is going to be a little bit complicated because of, well, how this is all kind of set up here, because you have these different areas where the outlines are going to be touching one another. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come in here, and so this is a 6. So we're just going to go ahead and keep it SS6 for right now. See, this is one thing I don't necessarily like. Let me show you this quick. Is if you look at this swoosh, it's kind of continuous, kind of like the bottom is. And so, what do we do? What do we do? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to come up to this point here, and we're going to call that, this is part of you as the designer. You're just going to have to call that home. Now, anything that conflicts with this, it's got to move. So this conflicts. So we'll just nudge it out of the way. This conflicts a little bit. We'll nudge it out of the way. That'll be fine. Okay. So if it conflicts, now what do we do about this? Well, this is going to conflict too, but what we're going to do is we're going to go from that point to that point just to help with the conflict. We're going to go with 6s. Okay, so that does conflict, that conflicts, possibly just dispose of it, man. If it gets in the way too bad, just dump it. That'll be fine. Okay? So now let's take a look. I always like to stage it out. Let's take a look. You can see it's coming together. Looks like we missed a piece of it. Oh, just in my, when I grabbed it. Okay. So now you can see what our progress is, right? Okay, let's go back in here. Move it out a little bit so we can see. Ta-da! So now you can see it's coming together. All right. So now let's go ahead and finish the T and the little swooshy swoosh we just made. So now we have a container, and now we have to fill the container. So how do we go about filling the container? Well, let's just switch out our colors here. Now you can see here we could actually go, if we really wanted to fill our containers, we could probably go something like that. But I don't know that that's entirely necessary. I think we can just go that little point there. I don't think we necessarily need that. And this is where we have to make some compromises when we're filling a container, because especially when we're doing rhinestone design, sometimes you just can't get the design exactly how you would prefer it. So what we could try and do is use 6s, and you might be able to squeeze them in there, possibly. I mean, it'd be a tight fit, but it is getting wider and wider as we go up, so we can do that possibly. We are getting a little bit more space as we go up. I'm going to jump over, though, to this area. So that's a 10 stone, and we can definitely fit that in there. Now, I'm going to see if we can't fit 2 6s in here. Again, tight squeeze. I think we can make do. So then let's bring this 10 over. Now the 10 on this end is going to be 2 10s. Or it could be 3 3s, or 3 6s rather. You see what I'm saying? Because of the spacing there, we probably have room for 3 6s. But in this case, I'm just going to use 2 10s. Switch that out for a 10. We could use a 10 there and a 10 there. And then we can use a 10 there. Guess we can use a 6. And a 6. And a 10. And then we can space these out. Going that way. Then we can space these out. We could space these out. All right, I think that's good enough. Now let's go ahead and do that bottom underline in much the same way. So let's go ahead and figure out what's going to fill the area the best. Looks like 6s is going to do the job. Let's come over here, see if we can't get some 10s in here. So it's going to be similar to up top. So what I'm going to try and do is put in a bunch of 10s here. Save myself a little bit of time. Manipulate our path a little bit. And then do the same down here. Manipulate our path a little bit. I think that'll work right there. Now, it does get smaller here, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and, I don't know, let's use a couple more 10s, I think, and some 6s. Nope, we need 6s over here yet. See, at some point it's going to get wider, and then we can probably use 10s. So, like right here, I think we can switch over to 10s. And again, when you're placing stones, don't focus too much on spacing because we're going to fix the spacing at the end. So see how that last row of stones we just put in, spacing's a little bit bigger, but that's okay because we're gonna fix all that right now. Okay, so now that's full. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna select a bunch of stones, and then we're going to. I want to show you something that we can do. If we select a, see, I can't. There's really no way in Easy Stone to select stones on a curve like this, but we can select stones in So we make a selection there, and it basically is going to connect any stone along a straight line. So it can connect those, and then what we can do is on our selection, just right click on that. And that throws them in a temporary hold. And we're going to do the same thing here. And right click on that, that throws them in a temporary hold. And then when we hit select, then that will actually bring that whole selection back into line. I think that's how it works. I honestly don't know. Let me do that again. I think you have to do it the opposite way. So you left click on select, that throws them into a selection, and then right click. So it's backwards of what I said. So when you want to throw them into a temporary hold, and now you can see all of those are selected. And now we can go ahead and separate or space that entire line. So now that entire line there has equal spacing. Yay. So that's what we want to do. So we want to select that to that and hit select, and then throw it in the selection for me, and then that and that, select, and throw that in the selection. Now I need them all. I can right click, pick them all up, and space all of them. So now we know that they're all perfectly spaced. Phew. Okay, so now let's pull this out and take a look at it and see what we got. So you see now our T is together, and I think this might, let's see here. Well, we can make it darker. That looks a little bit better. But now you can kind of see that how the T looks, how that little swoosh part looks, how the outlines look, and you can see the design's really coming together, right? So it's just more the same. So I tell you what, I don't know, do we want to keep going? All right, tell you what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and knock out our whole outline for the tunes part, and then we'll take a look at that, and then we'll skip ahead to the target. I want to show you how that target's handled. Okay, so let's see here. Let's start with a 10 right here. And this is where the designer in us kind of comes out a little bit, because we have kind of this dueling outlines here. So we're gonna focus on our tunes part of the design right now. Let you guys do squad. Okay. I'm gonna throw that down to a 6, just because I think I'm gonna need it going vertically too. There's not a lot of room right there. So now I'm going back to 10s. I want to get those 10s in there for the outline, if I can. We're going to lower that down to a 6. Come in here. I think I am going to go with 6s here. I might change that once I start doing the interior fill. I do that quite often. To fill space or whatever. So I might actually go back in and switch those back out to 10s. But for right now, we'll run with that. We'll see what it looks like here in a second. And again, this is just kind of the way I taught myself how to do it. And like I said, for me, it's mostly about the superior design. It's not about speed. Now, obviously, at one point in time, I used to make a living selling rhinestone designs. I don't do that anymore. I mean, I still have rhinestone designs I sell, but it's not something I really focus on anymore. Um, but so speed is important, obviously, but more importantly is the quality of the product. So that's ultimately where I come from. Is I want the end product to be absolutely perfect. That uh, spacing function in EasyStone is something that is vitally important for me, anyhow. Um, because I just I gotta have that spacing just to be spot on. So that was a function that was an absolute must. So you see here, this is a good learning place right here. The space between our outline, see, there's nowhere to go, and we do have an overlapping stone. Now I can tell you from experience, this would not bother me template wise, but so we could just kind of modify things a little bit. That tiny little bit overlap when you're going to make your transfers, don't stress over that. That's not going to bother a thing. Like I said, I know that from experience. Uh, Made lots of transfers back in the day, so that tiny little overlap will not cause any kind of issue at all. But you can see how that container, goes together pretty good. Now these are 6s, so we're, like I said, it's just a matter of filling the container. Whatever's there is there. If it works, great. If it don't, well then it don't. You can't really manipulate it that much. Let's go all the way to the top, and then we'll fill it in coming down. I think we can switch over to 6s. Switch back to 10s. Using 10s if I can. There we go. That worked out pretty nice. So now, I just like that spacing to be as spot on as it can be. So, there's that. And what I'm doing is holding my shift key down, selecting some stones. Boom. There's that. And let's see, let's get back to the action over here. What I'm gonna try and do 1, 10 and 1, 6, and then let's pull 6 over here. Let's do one more 6. Gonna try and sneak a 10 in there, but we'll do one more 6. Now we can sneak a 10 in there. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will space all those out perfectly, just because we can. What are we going to do down here? Switch out to a 10 here. I guess that'll work okay. And again, I'm not going to concern too much about that overlap. It's not that big a deal. It is a really tight fit, and sometimes that's, as good as it gets sometimes. It's kind of a little bit of a give and take. All right, let's keep going here on our outline. So we're doing our tune outline, and we're still using sixes. Now, I am going to go ahead and switch over to 10. Well, let's see here. That's going to fit better if it's a 6. But what I want to do is see if I can switch back to 10s for my outline. But I don't think... I think it's really going to look better if we just go ahead and leave it 6s and then do the fill here with 6s. And you can see there is a tight spacing there. Just that one little spot, and the rest frees up, so I'm not going to sweat that. I know when we go to make our templates, that's not going to be that big a deal. Or our transfers. Alright, so I do know that we're going to switch back to 6s going this way. Come all the way down. Add several stones quickly. And come across here. Gonna throw a 10 in there just for fun. Go back to a 6. And across the top here, I am going to use 10s. Going to use 10s here too. But then vertically, we'll use 6s. And then we'll use 6s here too. And then we're going to come around the corner here. Come all the way up. Come over this way. All right. So now we can just kind of finish filling this in. I'll grab a 10 here. And this will kind of like almost like sort of fill itself in. It's just a matter of filling in the gaps. It becomes, to me, it becomes very apparent once you've done it for a while of well, did we use a 10 or a 6 at that point? It just comes together pretty easily for you. You know what to do. So like this right here, we can't fit 2 10s in there, so it kind of almost becomes automatic that we know we got to use 6s. We can't fit 3 6s in there, so I think what we're going to do, I don't know if we can really fit another one in there, but we're going to try. tight, but it does fit. So here we got the same issue, about the same width. So we'll just add some stones. And we'll just try and fill in the gaps here. So you see how it kind of just flows. Throw in some stones there. All right. Let's see what we got now. So we'll pull that out and take a look. I'm going to go ahead and save this to avert disaster. But look, turned out pretty nice. What we've got going on so far, in stone spacing, all these things. So what looks like a complicated design, yes, it took us a little bit of time, and yes, we had a fair bit of fussing around, but the process is pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of getting in there and doing the job. And I promise you, the look, that end result of the design, that to me is what's special about this. All right. So the squad is on your own. Okay, that's your homework for the night. All right. So what I want to do now is talk about the target, because to me, that is the easiest part. But to me, especially to somebody brand new, also looks like it could be the most complicated part for them. So what I want to do is I want to select everything we've already done and just group it together, right click and lock it. Okay, so we cannot move anything that we've already done. So let's go ahead and draw a circle. That's step number one. And we want to just bring this circle, and obviously it's got to be roughly the same size as original artwork. So there we go. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want to offset this circle. So there's a variety of ways to do this, but I'm going to use a function here in EasyStone just to kind of help me out a little bit. And so we do want to make sure our stone size is SS10, because this circle I want to use primarily SS10s. And so what we're going to do is just click on Island Fill. Click on that button. And what that does, let's go to wireframe mode so we can see this more visually, is it just offsets lines. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to take those first three lines, set my stone color to cyan, for example. And those first three lines, let's see, I'm actually going to undo that. And I'm going to go 2 lines. So we're going to deviate from the artwork a little bit, but we're not. Let me just show you. So we're going to skip 2 lines, and then 2 lines we're going to do red again. We're going to skip 2 lines and do red again. Oops, I only skipped 1. Let me back up here. So we're going to skip 2 lines and do red again. And then we're going to skip 2 lines and do red again. Okay. I know it looks a little bit messy right now, but we're going to fix it. All right, now, because we do have clear already, we're going to use citrine. We're going to use some other color that we haven't already used, and that's just temporary. So we'll go ahead and add stones to that, stones to that, and stones to that. Whoa, what a mess we got going on here. All right, let's go back to the enhanced mode, and now you can kind of see that we do actually have a bit of a mess going, right? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, select all the whole design and delete all of our paths. So we don't have any more paths. But what I want to do now is I want to delete any massive conflict. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to focus on my black outline here. And we can't accidentally select our design itself. So wherever that black outline is, that's where our focus needs to be. Okay, so you see what we're doing here. We're just going to go around that whole design and get rid of anything that massively conflicts with that black outline. And the rest of it we're going to fix here. Just you'll see here in a second. Anywhere there's a big conflict, okay? Okay. Our big conflicts are dealt with. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use our freehand pick tool, and the stones inside, we're just going to come through and select those, the other stones that are inside our design. We're just going to come in here and go ahead and grab those and get rid of those extra stones as well. Okay. All right. So now these extra, let's go to wireframe mode and take a look at what we got going on. Okay, good, good, good. We're good there. All right. So now what we have to do is basically we have to adjust our design to finish it off. So I'm just going to add a stone there, and we're going to come all the way around to this. But see where that's conflicting? So we're just going to pull that down. And then our freehand pick tool is our friend here. We're going to alt click, and as we drag through the center of that very first outside line, that's when we hold down the alt key in CorelDRAW, that's what's going to select just those stones. And so all we're going to do is just respace that outside line. So we're going to pull that up here. We're going to come over here and pull that one up. Now, how do we get just these stones? Well, we can do it that way, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to my freehand pick tool, and all we're going to do is very carefully slice through those and come back and slice through them again. And if you really are careful, you'll only select those. Let me show you. So see, now but you can see we got one that we accidentally selected. Well, we don't want that, do we? And we need that one. So you can see what we did there. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and change all those back to cyan and right click, and those are all now spaced nicely apart. This one we got to go back to cyan too, and we're basically going to repeat that. I think we're good over here, but maybe not so much over here. So we'll come in here and we'll do the same thing with our freehand pick tool. Hold down the Alt key, slice through these like so, slice back through them. Just kind of be careful with your mouse selections. Okay. It's probably not a bad idea to change the color and just make sure you've got just the ones that you want selected before you go spacing them out. Okay. And yeah, it's kind of a tedious process, but that is the only way that I know of to get that spaced, nice and easy. It's pretty straightforward. It's not too bad. Okay, so we've done those few lines there. We got to pull that one back. We got to pull this one up. And what I do is just go ahead and push, pull, whatever you got to do to get these in line here. Now these right here, we are going to have to use because I want to get that in place here, but we're going to have to use 6s in order to get 2 rows of stones in there. And that happens sometimes, but that's why so we'll keep it with the original artwork a little bit easier that way. Then I'll go back to okay, so now we've got that extra width of color there, because these will eventually be clear, obviously. But that took care of it. So we're gonna just use our go ahead and sort that line out. We're gonna sort this line out. And then this line. And all I'm doing is holding my shift key down and just selecting those stones. That's another way. It's probably quicker to do it with the freehand pick tool, possibly. There's less selections you got to make. Looks like I messed up there. I didn't pull that one down. I did over here. Okay. So let's just go ahead and reselect and space those. Right click. Back over here. Right click. And then we've got 2 more. Now I'm going to switch back over to my, pull that one up a little bit, freehand pick tool, because there's too many to do manually. One at a time. I think this will ultimately be quicker. All right. One more time. Ta-da! So now all those are perfectly spaced. So let's just take a look at where we're at here so we can see. Now obviously we're not going to be able to see our other part of our design, but you can see that's looking pretty sweet. Once we undo the Toon Squad again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come in here and move all these ends where they should be. We can even put that down to a 6. I'll delete that one, pull that one, push that one. Good. Get rid of that one. Make that one a 6. Now here it's really calling for another row, but you see where it's just a little bit too. So what we could do, if we want to try and get that in there, about the only thing we could do is put this row to 6s, and then we would probably have enough room. Let's go ahead and try that to get the other color in there. How critical was that? You know, that's debatable. But we could sneak that other color in there. That little bit of overlap there when you go to make your transfers, I just don't think it's going to be that big a deal. So we're just going to leave that little bit of overlap. We could possibly move those up a little bit. Okay. Tell you what we're going to do. We'll make that a 6. All right. So we're just moving all the outline pieces where they ultimately are going to be. And then we will fine tune all of the spacing and get everything exactly in line like we want it. All right. So I think we're there. Now let's go ahead and we'll work from the inside out, I think. Those are all spaced basically already. That's all spaced. All right, so now this is going to be a little bit trickier. Just because of the sheer amount of stones we got to select, but we'll try it. We're going to do this outside edge first. Yeah, I selected it and then I accidentally deselected it. I hit the wrong mouse button. Okay, so let's see what we got selected that way. We're going to turn all of those purple, and you can see I missed one. So we'll add that to the selection. Then we will sort all those out. You know, I think what I'm going to do here, just to take care of my eyes, because I just think it's going to be kind of complicated to keep those rows separate, is just go ahead and hold my shift key down and pick all those stones up one by one and separate them that way. That's just going to be easier for me to do it that way. There's not that many. I say the target was the easiest part, and I guess it kind of was in terms of the stoning, but where the two designs intersect, it's a little bit of finessing because it's really almost two separate designs. It's what's actually happening here. But we're almost done. We get to look at our finished product here. I like doing designs like this because they're just kind of challenging a little bit. So, the more simple, and the other thing I really enjoy doing is showing how I actually go about creating those more complicated designs, because there's not a lot of information out there on how to take more complicated designs. But you can see in this video demonstration, while it did take us a little bit of time to get the design done, we didn't use hardly any functionality in EasyStone. We did use a little bit, but so it didn't take us a great deal of knowledge to know how to create a design, or all the different functions in EasyStone. We didn't have to know all that, and we were able to create a pretty good looking design. So let's go ahead and pull it out now that we're basically done. We do have to do squad, but that's your guys' homework. You got to knock out squad. So let's go ahead and take our citrine here of our target and go ahead and change that to crystal. And then we'll throw a weed box around it. And there you go. So that is the finished product. Like, obviously, you guys got to come in and do squad, but that shows you how to do that design. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.